Welcome back. We were appointed chairman of Shopee in January 2012, but resigned in September 2013.
Yes.
A few months before that resignation, you had vowed not to quit, despite the many attacks against the program and your good self.
Yeah.
What eventually made your position untenable?
You see, when I said I would not quit, I was responding to a specific situation. There were people who were trying to distract our committee on all sides and making all kinds of allegations and so on. And I said, look, if there's something that we're accused of as a committee, I'm prepared to stand up and defend the committee, and defend myself as well. And I'm not going to quit because somebody is accusing us of anything. So that was the point at the time. But when I found that it was time for me to leave, I left because I realized that some of the standards and values that we had agreed at the beginning of the exercise were becoming diluted. I found that there were certain decisions that were being taken that did not match the standards that we had set up. And when I brought this to the notice of the right people, and I discovered they were not, either they were unable or unwilling to do anything about it, I thought, well, okay, fine. I've done what I can do here. I have other things that I need to do, so I'll move on.
What exactly were those things? People weren't doing what they were supposed to do?
Why did government think that a Shopee committee was needed? The Shopee committee was just to come, take the funds that were being accumulated from the subsidy thing and manage those funds to produce results on certain projects. That is the basic thing. Now that's something that government does every day. So why didn't government just go on doing that? Why did it have to bring a committee in? It brought a committee in because, as the president said to me at the time, it was the feeling of government that if they tried to manage those funds with the normal arrangement, people would not believe what they were saying. And the president said, we believe that we need to gain credibility with people with this program. So we think if you and your committee can manage this thing transparently and in accordance with what we agree, then that credibility will be there. Now, that's fine. But when I discovered that there were individuals in the system that were practicing something that was lower than the transparency that we went in with, I raised the issues, and I discovered that political affiliations and things made this difficult for us to handle. I'll give you a specific example. We started by saying that we would offer employment to 5,000 youths from every state. Now, of course, if you're sitting in Abuja and you want to identify 5,000 youths in all the states, it's very difficult unless you involve the people who are on the spot. Now, it was the feeling of our committee, led by me, that to identify people in the states, we needed people who were politically neutral. In other words, get civil servants to go in there and say, according to the criteria you've agreed, these are the 5,000 youths from this state. Now, we were told that that would not be acceptable. And so something was set up called, state implementation committees, made up mainly of political people who had affiliations to one party or the other. Now, when that was brought into play, I pointed out that I feared that this would politicize what we were trying to do, and that therefore I felt we should take politicians out of this. But I was overruled by those who had the power to overrule me. And then it started happening. I got complaints from Abia State, from Ekiti State, that many of the youths being recruited into the program were supporters of Party A or Party B. And I went back and said, now look, what I had suspected is beginning to happen. So we need to kill this thing right away and go back to what we agreed. Now, somehow we couldn't do that. And for me, if you destroy the foundation on which you are setting up something like that, if you say that credibility is the key to success in this thing, and then you undermine credibility by politicizing the issues, then of course you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I'm not very good at shooting myself in the foot because I find I can't walk very well after that. There
was an allegation of the missing 500 billion Shopee fund, which you denied at the time of your resignation as Shopee chairman. The Senate Ad hoc Committee, if I may remind people, had accused NNPC of mismanaging 500 billion naira that ought to have accrued to the program. What you found out later, was there really a missing 500 billion?
No,
and if there wasn't, what do you reckon was the motive for that kind of allegation?
And I went to all the media to say there is no missing 500 billion from Shopee funds. Now, the 500 billion may be missing from somewhere else, but not from Shopee funds, because the system for bringing the funds into place was very straightforward. The subsidy level will be decided, calculations will be made, and you'll be told this is the amount that should go to Shopee. And at that time, Shopee funds were being accumulated at a regular amount every month. As soon as the funds were made available by Ministry of Finance, the funds went straight into an account at the central bank. There was nothing missing in Shopee funds. Any funds that came into Shopee were accounted for through that process. And so when people in the National Assembly started talking about missing funds, I said, no, any funds that have come to Shopee, you can go and trace them at the central bank. So it was, again, a politically motivated allegation. And, you know, when people don't have anything of value to contribute, and they then come with something that excites people's anger or irritation, it just distracts you and drains your energy. So that's what happened.
Knowing what we know now, was it a mistake that government did not go through with the complete removal of petroleum subsidy in 2012?
That's a policy decision that actually had nothing to do with Shopee. It was a government thing. And you see, there are...
Actually, Shopee was a consequence of that decision.
Yes, Shopee was a consequence. But the point is that you ask yourself, if government decided to remove all of the subsidy, who would be most affected? It was the ordinary people who were buying petroleum products. Now, therefore, I don't think it was an error not to remove the whole thing. The error, in my view, was that the management of relationships within this whole NNPC, importers, and so, within that whole arrangement, the management of that was not as good as it ought to be. So that those who wanted to do evil within that system were able to take advantage of loopholes. That had nothing to do with Shopee.
You know, there's this clamor for removal of subsidy now, yes. Given the state of the economy. Should government now remove subsidy?
Well, you know, again...
And what should be done preparatory to that if it ever happens?
Exactly, it is what should be done preparatory to it. You see, first of all, why is there subsidy at all? Subsidy happens because the amount it takes to bring petroleum products to the user, that amount is a bit over the edge. And therefore, how can you manage the situation so that people don't have to pay more than they should for what they use? Now, we have refineries in Nigeria. These refineries are supposed to take our crude oil and refine the crude oil into these products. Now, for decades now, the refineries have not been working. Now, until you address that problem and get it addressed in a competent and effective way, you will always have the need to subsidize something, because actually what you're paying, the money you're paying, is for the benefit of those who are outside this country. So for me, the whole policy needs to be studied more closely. And it's not something that can happen overnight, because if you're going to get those refineries to work properly, you've got to ask yourself, if the present system of managing the refineries is not effective, what else can we do? Now, the moment you talk about privatizing refineries, everybody is up in arms. You're running away with national assets. But if you're not producing the right results, then you should look for ways of doing it.
We have to take another break now. Please join us again.